Good afternoon or good morning, wherever you're based, everyone. My name is Federico Vasoli. I'm the CEO of the Antevorta Foundation based in Singapore. This is the very first webinar that we're organizing in 2025, entitled Innovation Healthcare, e-HTA, Medical Device Regulation, and the Challenge of Inequality. Once again, this is the result of a collaboration among Brunel University of London, this time with the Nuffield Department of Primary Care at the University of Oxford, the National Agency for Regional Health Services, the University of Verona, and of course our Antevorta Foundation. First, a few technical remarks. This webinar is being recorded, so if you feel uncomfortable being recorded, if you have anything private, confidential, etc., we invite you to leave the webinar now. The webinar will then be broadcast on our website as well as on our YouTube channel, so you will be able to access it from there. Today we have new faces, except for mine. Notably, we have Catia Nicodemo, who's a professor at Brunel University London's Business School and associate professor at the Nuffield Department of Primary Care at the University of Oxford, who gracefully suggested this webinar and has involved the other speakers, namely Professor Marchetti, who's a professor in health technology assessment at Università Cattolica del Sacro Cuore and director of e-HTA at Agenzia Nazionale per i Servizi Sanitari Regionali in Italy, as well as Stefano Landi, professor in business administration and healthcare management at the Department of Management of the University of Verona. We should have had also Chiara Lardini, professor in business administration and director of the same Department of Management of the University of Verona, but regrettably she's not with us today. Not a problem. Professor Stefano Landi works closely with her, so he will talk also on her behalf. Healthcare is undergoing a profound transformation driven by technological advancements. HTA services, health technology assessment, serves as a critical tool for evaluating medical interventions and technologies, ensuring their cost-effectiveness and equitable access while supporting evidence-based policymaking. Robotics, on the other hand, is revolutionizing patient care through precision surgery, faster diagnostics, and enhanced rehabilitation techniques. Yet, alongside these innovations lies the challenge of inequality, particularly the digital divide, which limits access to these advancements for vulnerable populations. Addressing this gap is essential to ensuring that healthcare innovation benefits everyone. As always, I will leave the floor to our moderator, Catia Nicodemo, who will introduce the various speakers and will also ask questions to them. And towards the end of this webinar, which as always will last 1 exact hour, we'll have some space for questions from the audience, which I would kindly ask you to ask through the Q&A tool here on Zoom. I thank you very much, and Catia, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Federico. Good morning or good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. As Federico say, will moderate this webinar. Thank you, Federico, for the opportunity to host this webinar. So thank you also to Antevorta and all the staff in Antevorta. So it's a pleasure to have such a distinguished speaker with us to discuss some of the most pressing topic in healthcare innovation today. So as Federico say, the healthcare is in this profound transformation, especially the technology advance. And so one of the key tools guiding this transformation is the health technological assessment, the HTA, which play a critical role in evaluating the value, effectiveness, and impact of this new medical technology. Today, we focus on two major your topic, the HTA regulation, and also the implication for medical device. And of course, Professor Marchetti will give us some hint about the program of HTA that has been now discussed, not just in Italy, but also in Europe. Of course, to understand how do we ensure that innovative technology like robotic surgery are accessible and equitable, how do you balance innovation with cost effectiveness and sustainability, or how we address emerging challenges such as the digital divide, or who are left behind, for example. Before to answer to this question, that of course maybe we'll leave this for the next webinar, today we explore some of what are these innovative technological and how we can measure and sustainable for apply this to everybody. So I'm delighted to introduce our first speaker, Marco Marchetti. Marco, maybe I wanted to start with our first questions related to the evaluation of digital medical device. Is the evaluation of this device included in HTR? And if so, how will it be implemented?
Evaluation of digital medical devices are not in scope, are not in scope for the regulation, but I mean, there is an article in the regulation that this is the Article 23 that foresee voluntary cooperation. So, I mean, just to have a brief summary, a regulation for medical devices is mandatory for Class 2B medical devices that are delivering or removing pharmaceutical product, or Class 3 implantable medical devices. So generally, digital medical devices are not in Class 2B or Class 3, so they are mainly in Class 2A, time to times also in Class 2, in Class 1. So at least with this version of the HTA regulation, because we need to take into consideration that we are going to have a revision of the regulation in 2028, is not in mandatory scope, but there is very high level of interest in the member state. So what happened is that in the November meeting of the Health Technologies HTA Member State Coordination Group, we decide to start to activate this article on the voluntary cooperation. And one of the topic that was of the main interest on the member state is digital health and digital medical devices. So actually, we are setting up a working group on digital medical devices in the context of the HTA coordination group to plan the activities. That for sure we are not going to start in this year, and don't think in the next year, because we are fully involved in the mandatory scope of the regulation. By the way, in the same times, we have a network of the that is called HAG, Head of HTA Agency Group, that is strictly connected with the HTA Member State Coordination Group, because I mean we are the same HTA bodies that are in the HAG, Head of Agency Group, are part also of the coordination group. So we have 34 different agencies. And in this context, we set it up a working group on digital medical devices and digital health in the last October. And now we are going to have the kickoff meeting. We have 15 member states that are interested in these activities. The objective of this working group is to harmonize the framework, the HTA framework, the HTA processes and procedure for evaluating digital health and digital medical devices. So we are going to start with these activities in the next mid of April, and our first objective is to have a collection of different procedures and methods that are in place in different member states, and trying to understand how to what has the possibility to have an harmonization of this procedure. And probably we are going to have also some one or two case studies in this year. I want just to finish my comment, the answer to your question. We will agree that in this working group is the place in which HTA bodies in Europe are talking with all other stakeholders that are involved in different perspectives, HTD developer, patient, or scientific society, or also with other projects that are funded by the EU money. So actually we have two important Horizon Europe that is EDITA and Assess DHT. So, and this is the place in which we want to set a formal discussion that is able to catch the needs from HTA body, and also to have a discussion about what is going to happen, because these two Horizon project have the objectives to create an HTA framework for evaluating digital medical devices and digital therapeutics. And we want that these two projects are producing something that could be helpful to the HTA body. So in order to maximize the effort of the EU money to sustain, to push the harmonization of digital medical devices. This working group will be one of the privileged stakeholders for the HTA member state coordination group, and the expectation is that procedures, methods that will be developed in this working group will be then transferred and adopted in the coordination group.
Thank you, Marco. This is really clear, and I can see that a lot of member states work on this topic. And so I wanted to ask you now, what to distinguish the program of a national program of HTA 2023-2025 from the previous HTA programs in Italy and maybe also in Europe?
There is a substantial distinction. The first one is that actually we have rearranged the role and responsibility of the institutions that are part of this of the national program of HTA. So actually we have the steering Minister of Health that is most driving is representing the steering committee of the national program of HTA. So he's taking decision with respect to the HTA evaluation that will be produced by the AGENAS, that is the technical research body that is in charge to produce HTA evaluation. So actually we have a very more clear distinction with respect to the previous program, who is doing what and what are the responsibilities. So Minister of Health with the steering committee that is coordinated by the Minister of Health is responsible for strategic orientation and for the selection, for the confirmation of the selection for technologies that will be under the HTA evaluation, and then after the production by AGENAS of the HTA report, it will be responsible for the appraisal process to recommend or not the introduction of digital or medical devices, because we are talking about medical devices. The national program of HTA is focused on medical devices, including for sure digital health and digital medical devices. So we have distinction among who is doing policy and who is doing technical operation evaluation. AGENAS is in charge to manage and to do the HTA evaluation. Another difference is that actually we adopted a decentralized model in which AGENAS will do this evaluation using organization and institution that have the competencies to do HTA evaluation. So in this context, we selected with a public call 22 collaborative centers in Italy that are mainly university research center that under the control and the supervision, coordination of and supervision of AGENAS will support us in producing the HTA evaluation. This model has the objective is also to answer to one issue that is common all over Europe with respect to the competencies available and the capability to produce HTA. So we have we need to produce HTA evaluation in time, on time, which an appropriate timing also not to delay the introduction for those technologies that are really effective and that can be really produce a clinical added benefit value for the patient. Finally, the one of the most important changes that now we have the funds to produce evaluation, because we have a different legislation coming from 2021 that has been finally confirmed and approved with different other decree. So we have actually all the legislative framework that through a taxation that has been introduced by the government that foresee that 0.75% of the total expenditure that healthcare developer, industry, or also seller that are going to sell medical device to public institution, not private institution of NHAs, need to pay to set up a governance system for medical devices. 30% of this total amount of money is dedicated for HTA. So actually, we have this part of money in which we can use this money to fund all different initiatives that are included in the national plan for HTA medical device program.
Thank you, Marco. This seems really relevant, especially we have in our floor many students, so it seems that HTA is an important sector, how you say, more especially in Italy, where we have this tax for new medical devices. So I think in the future, as new medical device come in, so will be very relevant also to evaluate more and more this medical device. And this is something really, I think many students probably can tend to go in this kind of study. So my final question, Marco, to you is what can we expect from the ongoing HTA evaluation on the robotic surgery system conducted by AGENAS? I know that AGENAS now has put a lot of stress in HTA, and so you create this group. How do you think it will be conducted?
Actually, we have ended the HTA evaluation of the robotic surgery systems. We are in the phase of a revision of the document, and probably together with the Minister of Health, we'll launch the public consultation for the document in May. The objectives of these documents are to evaluate the effectiveness and safety of different robotic surgery systems. Actually, we have 3 systems that are on the market with the CE mark. And we want to compare the effectiveness and safety of this different robotic surgery system respect to the traditional open and laparoscopic surgery in Italy on three particular clinical areas: general surgery, urology, and gynecologist. We would like to understand what is the economic and organizational impact of this different robotic surgery system respect to the cost of traditional open and laparoscopic surgery in Italy. And finally, we would like to, this is the policy question that we are trying to answer through this document, to understand what are the ethical, social, and legal implications of using robotic surgeries compared with the traditional surgeries. Finally, we also would like to compare how, not just, robotic surgeries, but how, if there is any possibility to evaluate among themselves different robotic systems that are actually in the market, because there is an impact. They have different costs, they have different implications in terms of organizational and economic issues.
Thank you, Marco. So your perspective on HTR and ongoing evaluation of robotic surgery system highlight how critical it is, and of course have a robust evidence is really important. And this brings us to the next part of our discussion, where we'll now dive deeper into the role of this early health technology assessment, e-HTA, and especially on the value-based healthcare. As we know, this is HTA process is multidimensional, and you can see, especially in Europe, it is quite a big issue, as there are more than 22 agencies and that those put together, and I think 15 members are not easy to coordinate all of them, right? This is where e-HTA comes into play, helping to inform decision early in the development process, ensuring that new technology are not only clinical effective, but also economic, sustainable, and also aligned with the needs of the healthcare system. To explore this further, I'm pleased to introduce our next speaker, Stefano Landi, who is has an extensive expertise in early HTA and its application on this high-value technology, particularly on the fields of robotic surgery. He will share some insight into how economic evaluation can support informed decision-making in the early stage of medical device. And in particular, he will talk about this project that are in Verona that compare different robotic surgery platform. So Stefano, first of all, thank you to be here. So let's start with the first question. So the HTA approach is multidimensional. How can research and industry work to accelerate the approval process, mark entry, and increase the likelihood of proposing an innovative medical device?
Thank you, Catia, for your presentation. Thanks to Francesco and to the Foundation for the invitation to talk about HTA and early HTA. I'm part of the Healthcare Management Research Group of the Department of Management here in Verona. I would like to bring greetings from Chiara, that she's engaged in some institutional meetings, so she couldn't be here. Just a little, starting from a little background, from an healthcare management point of view, HTA, that is composed by several methodological tools, is an instrument to support also managerial decision-making at the different levels of healthcare systems, starting from the healthcare provider to regional and national authorities, for the adoption and use of healthcare technologies, trying to make more rational or making better choice based on evidences. And this statement is even more important when we think about medical technologies and medical devices in particular, because they are characterized by continuous innovation and a really short life cycle. Some authors stated that they have an average life cycle of 1.5 or 2 years. So we have a fast changing landscape where volume and frequency of innovation are really high. I just checked some days ago, and we have in Europe, the European Patent Office gave us the data where in 2022 we have around 30,000 patents for medical technologies. So there are a lot of new medical devices, new medical technologies, but the main issue that we know we need to face is the fact that the difference between a new medical device and an innovative one, an innovative medical devices. And in this sense, regulatory body, HTA body, procurement body needs to try to understand if the new medical device is value for money, and all of us knows what is money, but what is value is a little bit more complex. And so in some sense, HTA helps us to give some answer to the value side of the equation. And so as also Professor Marchetti said, we have we can say an attempt to build capacity, so HTA capacity building. Professor Marchetti told about Italy, also other countries try to have professionals that are able to make HTA report in a robust methodological way, but on the other hand also having professionals able to read that kind of report and make the right recommendation or the more rational choice. So the new regulation is for sure a positive step forward. On the other hand, as HTA is based on multidimensional evidence, and among the other we have also the social one, where inequalities or the impact on inequalities that a new medical device can have should be taken into account. But having you know, a multidimensional structure, and there are also a lot of data that have to be collected, there is some sort of challenges where we are going to talk about innovative medical device. Because one of the goals that we have as healthcare systems is of course to give timely access to innovative medical devices for our patients. And here two challenges comes for us, because the first one that I'm not going to face in particular today is the fact that innovative medical devices usually have low evidences, so creating some sort of trade-off between a decision based on robust and large evidences and a decision based on the goal to accelerate access or to have at least a timely access of innovation for our patients. The second one is the fact that the classical HTA, if you want, is used, of course, and rightly, for access pricing to develop evidences alongside the clinical research phase. But in this moment where there are a lot of new medical devices, it is becoming more and more important, the fact to have some tools to inform decision at an earlier stage of product development, such as in the translational research phase, or even the proof of principle or prototype product development. And here comes the Early-HTA that try to collect some methodologies like discrete choice experiments or cost-effective analysis based on scenario analysis. There are several methodologies that can be used that has the goal to inform the producer, but also the other stakeholders involved, of course, in this kind of process, about the potential value of a new medical products in a phase where before the clinical research phase. So it's a kind of use of these tools, like the ones I mentioned before, try to make some assumption on which are the main parameters that have some uncertainty or that have to be reached to have a medical device with high value potential. So we are a sort of two sides of the same coin, because on one hand we have institutions that are under considerable pressure to manage this extremely large number of medical devices, and on the other hand we have the producer that of course want to get their products to the market and to generate revenues and are pushing for fast and easy market access. So the value is the point where the two sides can match, because Early-HTA should help the producer to focus on the variables that actually can create value also then for the healthcare systems, and so for the regulatory HTA and procurement bodies. So if this matching worked well, we can have probably an acceleration in the access of medical devices, and they use the best allocation of resources, because in particular, the industry or the producer can avoid to invest on medical devices that have low potential. So these medical devices won't come to the market, won't come to the regulatory or HTA body, following, if you want, following the principle fail fast and fail cheap, while bringing in the market the most valuable or the medical device that have the highest potential for producing value for the healthcare system.
Stefano, this brings me to ask you also, so in the early stage of medical device development, what are the key aspects that an economic analyst must consider to support informed decisions? And if you can provide some concrete example on your research.
Yes, as I said, as e-HTA, Early-HTA focuses on pre-market evaluation and aims to assess the potential of the medical device. We have these tools to assess the potential value that focus on three dimensions, we can say, because to understand potential value, Early-HTA address clinical benefits or potential clinical benefits, potential clinical cost or resource use, considering the patient pathway, and the last one, maybe the most important and where economists can do their part, is the probability of realizing these potential benefits and costs, so the uncertainty. So one of the main goals, aims of the Early-HTA is to estimate, to understand which is the level of uncertainty, in particular to understand which are the most sensitive parameters that can affect the creation of value. For example, the fact that a medical device can be a cost-effective or even a cost-saving medical device for the healthcare system. So the economic modeling in particular can be useful to recognize these uncertainties, understand which are the parameters that can lead or can be a barrier to lead this medical device to a cost-effective medical device. And so this can help to accelerate also the decision for the manufacturers, but also the investor and regulators to focus on the main parameters, because after the translational research phase, we have the clinical research phase. So the Early-HTA, the economic modeling, can help the stakeholders to design the second phase, the clinical research phase, in a most effective way. And just an example, we are working on some projects. Here briefly introduce the Robiopsy project, and it is financed by the Horizon Europe, so you can find also his website, etc. This project aims this project deals with diagnosis of prostate cancer and consists of a robotic platform integrated with artificial intelligence to make a fusion between the MRI and the image that the ultrasound takes place during the procedure itself, so during the biopsy. Here, basically, we build on Early-HTA tools, and we divided we divide in three main focus. We have the stakeholder involved in the decision, we have the perspective, and then we have the uncertainty element that is, as I said, relevant. So in our example, we have, from a perspective, we have three perspectives. We have the user, and the user can be the clinician, so the urologist. Then we have also the procurement expert or the procurement professionals that have, of course, different goals and different aims, and then we have the patients. Then we have the perspective of the healthcare organization, of course, that try to have a financial economic balance, so is much interested in the procedure costs and potential revenues. And the third one is the system, so the healthcare system that wants to know the cost and the outcomes of the process, but with a longer follow-up period. So considering the pathway of the outcomes after the implementation of these medical devices. So just to make an example, for the user perspective, we are using a discrete choice experiment to understand which is the willingness to pay and to understand which are the main attributes for the three stakeholders I mentioned before, how much each attribute is important for these stakeholders, and maybe to understand even the differences between the three stakeholders. So just to make some example of the attributes we are using of course the price of the robots, but we are also using the technical accuracy of the robot. We are assessing also the compatibility of the robot with the ultrasound that the structure, an healthcare provider has already in place in their facilities. And so we try to understand which is the most important attributes and how to weight them to build the, let's say, the best medical device composition. The second level, the healthcare organization, here we are going to evaluate the procedure cost using a particular cost analysis and try to understand if this medical device can change these costs, whether larger costs or lowering these costs. The final one, we are using cost effectiveness modeling, like decision tree and Markov model, to understand how the patient pathway evolve during time after the diagnosis. So when you have some level of accuracy, then you can understand more or less how many resources the patient is going to consume, and also the outcomes that he will have during the time. Of course, we are basing our analysis on the literature, and then this is the most beautiful part from my point of view, but also the most complex part. Of course, there will be some assumptions, so there will be some parameters that we need to understand through threshold analysis or sensitivity analysis to understand which is the parameters that can affect more these three level of analysis.
Thank you, Stefano, for this. And remaining in the same sector of comparison, I know that you work also in this project Compare, where it is conducting a comparison about these three big robo surgical robot that we have in Verona, Da Vinci, Hugo, and the Cambridge one. Can you give some information about what do you find in this project and what results emerging from this comparison?
Yeah, the Compare project is comparing three robotic platforms, and our clinician colleague are collecting outcomes data. We are working instead on the organizational and the cost analysis. Here we are conducting a cost comparison using the time-driven activity-based costing. And this is a particular choice we made because there are several accounting or cost analysis that we can use that usually are more top-down approaches. Instead, time-driven activity-based costing is useful because it's a bottom-up approach and is able to evaluate the patient cost, the single patient cost, so we can relate the outcomes, health outcomes, with the cost of that single patient, and then we can also appreciate or estimate the variability between different patients. For example, maybe here there are some clinician colleagues, and for the hysterectomy, our colleague already, when we talked together, that BMI can be a factor, and actually from the early analysis that we are doing, BMI can affect the time of the procedure, so at the end of the work, the cost of the procedure. So it's an heterogeneity that we need to take into account when we compare different robots, different robotic platforms. And the last interesting point from my side is that time-driven activity-based costing is able to follow the patient during his pathway. So it's not just the single procedure, but potentially we can extend the analysis to measure which are the resources that the patient consume also before or after the specific service. So we are going to, yes.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
The project is ongoing. We have, thanks to this methodology, we are doing also here, because it's not a proper Early-HTA, because the platform are already on the market, but we use the sensitivity analysis and the threshold analysis to understand which are the parameters, the cost of the kit, the platform cost, or the personal cost, the operation room cost, so to understand which are the most important parameters to make a cost-effective choice in acquiring, purchasing the different platforms.
Great, thank you so much, Stefano. So your work in Early-HTA and this project in Verona highlight the importance of evaluating not just the clinical and economic value, but also the impact on the healthcare system. So I thank both Marco and Stefano for this important, very short, because of course probably we need more time to deeply go in understand better the HTA. But this is giving hints for us for sure to understand a little bit more. This brings me to a critical issue that Stefano also and Marco have highlighted that we must address, and for sure not in this webinar, but in the future webinar, is this advanced technology maybe bring also some digital divide and regional disparity in access to robotic robotic surgery. I spoke by my personal experience. For example, I come from south of Italy, and in south of Italy, for example, we have very few robo for surgery, and so most of these are usually in the north of Italy. So these high tech medical device, of course, of tremendous potential improving patients' outcome, and but their adoption sometimes is not evenly distributed. And so Wealth region and urban center probably have great access respect to rural and the server area, and this is that can face more barrier. So I think we need thinking about this HTA not just in of course important issue on the medical device, but how also this will impact in the future on the populations, and try to maintain the fairness and the access to everybody, and not just in some hub, for example, in some urban areas. So I wanted to again thank you so much for all your your arguments here on HTA to Marco and Stefano, and I think with that in mind, I like to open the floor for any questions and comment, and I give this to Federico. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Catia, and massive thanks to Marco and Stefano for their clarity. As a layperson, I have learned quite a lot from your interventions as well as from your articles, Catia. I did not mention that in the beginning, but Catia is a regular contributor to the Antevorta Foundation's website, where you can read several of her contributions that are actually quite accessible even for non-experts like me. We do have 2 questions already that we're going to answer live. For additional questions, please kindly address the expert that you would like, the person that you would like to address the question to, so we know whether to ask Professor Marchetti, Professor Landi, or Professor Nicodemo. So the first one, I don't know who can answer this question, is how can medical device regulation ensure equal access to new medical technologies? As a lawyer, I seem to recall that the European Union is thinking about reforming the MDR, which came into effect just a few years ago. It was introduced, I believe almost 10 years ago, but it came into effect only quite recently, and they're really thinking about reforming it precisely in order to streamline procedures, which should have an impact on equal access to medical technologies. But this is as far as I know, and I would like any of you 3 to answer that, if you want.
Marco, and maybe also Stefano, if you want to join.
I mean, medical device regulation is different from HTA regulation. They are connected because medical device that are in scope for HTA, for the HTA is a specific class risk medical devices that are going under the expert panel opinion. Actually, medical device regulation is under revision. I mean, but this is another issue, another topic. And public consultation, if I remember well, it just finished or is close to be finished. And so in the last, we had, medical device regulation had different issue to solve, and I'm not able to anticipate, the new revision of medical device regulation. For sure, what I can say is that the connection with HTR is making, this is the objectives for those medical devices that have the CE mark, have the objectives to go to speed up the process for have available the real effective medical device for patients. And this is, something that I mean, we as a member state are really committed to do this because they are responsible for the evaluation at the EU level, and so there is a very willingness to not just because of the regulation and the obligation that comes from the legislation, but also because member states are doing evaluation, then they are going to use in their national processes.
Wonderful. Catia, Stefano, do you have any additional remarks on this?
Not specifically on the juridical part, the normative part, that it's not my field of research, but for sure the harmonization that Professor Marchetti talked about is quite important, because since the HTA, the use of the HTA at regional and national levels is an effective strategy to allow our citizens to have access to new medical technology, innovative medical technologies. Of course, an harmonization can help to reduce inequalities, because if we have some agency or some region that works better than other, of course, it's good for their patients, but the other risk to be back. And the second comment that I have, that should be a research topic for HTA scholars, is that we have in the HTA the social domain. So we have 8 domains if we look at the HTA core model, and we have the social aspects. So when you look at HTA report, actually we have the effectiveness, the safety. Of course, there are a lot of pages, also the economic part. If you look at the ethical and social part, usually we have a lower number of pages. That so maybe we have the framework to work directly on HTA report to try to understand which is the impact of the medical devices on potential inequalities.
Thank you very much. Another question, again on the MDR, on the medical device regulation. How can the EU medical device regulation support innovation? This is a cross question between legal and technical. I don't know if any of you would like to answer this question.
I can ask maybe also, probably Marco knows more than us here. I think, of course, the regulation is important because the innovation is there, and the medical device, of course, there are very highly cost medical device, but there are very cheap medical device, okay? And so the regulation is important, and I don't think they will stop innovation in the sense that, of course, if there is a market outside there, so it is easy to go, and it's easy also to sell this medical device today. So from the app to the, for example, the simple watch that we have, okay? So have a regulation there is necessary to protect the patients, but also to avoid that we have a huge market of medical device where the effectiveness is very low, and especially if we want to adopt this in a system like the European one, where is based on the welfare system, and we pay, so the government will need to pay to the adoption. I don't think this is will be without any kind of regulation. So regulation, from my point of view, does not stop the innovation, but can probably give some also guidelines what we expect from the innovators here, from the company to enter in the market. And I don't know, Marco, if you have something else to add.
I mean, I can just complement your answer. What we are trying, I mean, what I can perceive at the EU level, that there is an effort to create a really interconnected system. So, I mean, there is the interconnection among different regulation, different, EU institution. For the regulation, we are going to interact both for the medical device and pharma legislations. We are going to interact with the EMA. So we are going to create really an interconnection among different processes, and then I think that this can help to have a facilitation for technologies that are really effective to be available in the market. But for sure, all this, we need. It's not just an issue of processes and procedure. It's an issue also of how we are trying to create a more valuable system, both for the more for all different stakeholders that are involved. So both for HTA developer, for HTA body, from payer, and to have available technology for patients that are effective. But also we need to increase the quality of the system. It means that in particular for medical devices, we have a problem with the quality of evidence that is arriving, that is available when these medical devices are launched into the market. So all these efforts need to be, focused on also on how we can improve how HTA developer can improve the quality of the evidence.
Yeah, and probably that also I allow myself to add a small note here. Probably that is also linked to the Mario Draghi report on EU competitiveness, in that stresses the importance of the Capital Markets Union. That is, as of now, net of all the geopolitical tensions that we witness, eventually a lot of startups that spring up in Europe eventually get massive funds elsewhere, particularly in the US, where there is an ecosystem for sustaining higher innovation, even though Europe is not doing that bad after all. We have what is probably our last question, considering the few minutes we have left, from Oliver Banguera. Thank you very much for writing your name. What can the universal healthcare system like the NHS do to increase access to medical technology for the public? Who wants to answer this?
Go ahead.
I think, Catia, you wrote something about the NHS, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, no, yeah, for sure. I can come with that. So, no, yeah, for sure. It's a great question, Oliver. So, what do we? So NHS, of course, especially in England, we have the NICE regulation. And they are very based on cost effectiveness. So the idea that a new medical device come in, the regulation is quite strong. And so before to apply any medical device in the hospital, primary care, that require very long process. To provide that everybody have access to the technology, it is something that also England, that has a traditional research in NHS, and access inequality still miss this point. So especially there are some technology that is very, very highly cost, and so spread that across country is not something easily. But not just that, because you can reduce or depreciate the cost of the technology across time. The problem is training all also the doctors, nurses, and so on to use that technology. Okay, and so also these need a huge effort to achieve. And so it is not something straightforward. For example, you can say, okay, we can invest this million for this type of robot in this hospital, but if you do not training the people there, so the professional to use it, so this is something that doesn't happen. You can, of course, there is a huge hub. For example, London is a huge hub. Lombardy in Italy, and I think in other country. So you have this huge hospital with a lot of technology there, and you can use very quickly if you have access to go to London. But not everybody has this possibility. Maybe not everybody knows that there is this possibility. And so it is something that I think all the regulator, the stakeholder, the policymaker, and the research need to come in and thinking a little bit more on that, because at the moment we still see this divide and this digital divide, and we continue to see this digital divide, I think, for a little bit more time. So yeah, it is not a straightforward answer here.
Thank you, Catia. Any further remarks, Professor Marchetti, Stefano, on that? Otherwise, we can wrap it up.
Yeah, it's a huge question, a great question, but also a big question. So, HTA should be one of the answers. Because try to allocate resources in the best way is one of the answers, because we can do more with the same budget. We can do more, or we can also increase the budget, the total budget of the national system, of course. But we cannot, if we cannot increase that budget, HTA can be an answer, because can help to use in the best way the resource we have. And the last thing is that, as Catia said, some HTA badly like nice, but also, for example, the Toscana region have some, we use ICER, the cost effectiveness, to introduce or not, to adopt or not a medical device. But when we have a really innovative device, they relax that kind of rules. So the ICER is not anymore the main parameters that they look at, but if it's really innovative, we can include in the system that medical device, even if there is an ICER really high. So there are some technical terms that I used, but it's a topic that it's really important, and we need to face in the next years.
Good. I thank you all. Thank you very much for this beautiful and insightful webinar. I will close here and would love, of course, to organize something like this in the future, perhaps linking up to the last question that we received. Again, thank you, Catia, for your constant contributions and unwavering support to the Antevorta Foundation, and for helping us organize this beautiful webinar. Thank you, Professor Marchetti. Thank you, Professor Landi. Thanks, everyone, for being here with us today. You will be able to see the recording of this webinar shortly. Again, thank you very much, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stefano. Thank you, Marco.